This project is made possible by support from the National Endowment for the Arts, the Missouri Arts Council, and the Kansas City Art Institute.
Welcome to the Mother Ann podcast, where women who are both artists and mothers discuss their diverse experiences as creators and caregivers. I'm Eleanor Lynn Midyett, project manager and co-curator of the Mother Ann Project and assistant professor of liberal arts at the Kansas City Art Institute. I'm also the mother of 4 sons. Each episode features discussions with artists and other individuals involved in the Mother Ann exhibition, which runs from September 5th to November 21st, 2025 at the Leedy-Voulkos Art Center in Kansas City, Missouri. The exhibit and the podcast disrupt preconceived notions that parenthood diminishes one's artistic practice and celebrate motherhood as a source of expansive creative potential.
So my grandmother started the first gallery in Kansas City in the 1930s, and she was bringing in Gauguin and the expressionists and contemporary artists into the city. So she had art all around, and then I used to go in there and dust and look at everything and look at the antiques and dust, she had all kinds of stuff.
In this episode, I speak with artist mother Linda Lighton.
I'm Linda Lighton. I'm 77 years old now, and I'm a artist here in Kansas City, a full-time artist. I've taught a little bit in the past. I was an artist for the state of Missouri and one for young audiences, and that was a trip. And I managed the Lighton Artist Exchange Program, and I help a lot of the art organizations here in town.
Great. Could you tell us a little bit about your Lighton, the program that you just talked about?
Sure. And it was when the wall came down in the Soviet Union in 1989, 1990, and Jim Leedy was asked to come to the Soviet Artists Union, which was suddenly the Latvian Artists Union because it was in Latvia, and they were so rich. The Artists Union had a big, 10-story building on the river in Riga, Latvia, and then they had a campus out in Jormala, which is a white sand beach where all Kosygin and all these guys had their dachas, and they had a hotel and a lunchroom, and everything was free. But can you imagine doing that for artists? And it was just to exchange ideas. And so they had been doing it for 30 years. Some of it was to kind of find out what was going on in the rest of the world, and they asked you to leave a piece. And so it was an amazing experience. And
so a scholarship fund? So basically your foundation then was a scholarship fund to...
No, it didn't exist yet, but I went to that thing, and the next year I got invited back to go to a bone china factory in Lithuania, and then I was invited back to another space they had, and I went to Hungary. I was thinking about it. How do you do it? What do you do? I could have got a place out in the country. We had a place in the Northwest. Oh, God, I have a big studio, and sometimes it's full of artists, and it's a lot of work to manage them and clean up and make sure, all that. And so, my husband said, just keep it really simple. Why don't we just give people money to travel? And so, it took me a while. I did it with Janet Simpson at the Artists Coalition. And so the idea of it is to artists from the U.S. go to some foreign country and stay for a month or two, and the goal is to make friends in another country so that you can understand that the world's a smaller place and everybody's really nice,
Yeah, what a great opportunity.
It's all outside of politics. I have nothing to do with any government, anything. And we started it. The first artist was Peteris Martinson, who's kind of like Voulkos of the Soviet Union. And he came here during an NCCA, like in 85 or something. And so now I've sent 270 or something.
Wow.
Artists to...
Abroad?
Yeah, to like 60 countries. And it's also for international artists to come to the U.S.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so it's a good thing. And too many people know about it. Somebody just called and said, "Do you want to put an ad?" No, there's no advertising. I haven't paid for any advertising. It's just word of mouth, pretty much.
Great. Linda, would you please describe your art practice for us a bit?
Yeah, I'm really fortunate to have a giant studio, which you can have in Kansas City. And yeah, I'm so fortunate. So I even have room for some other artists if they need to come in. And I do mostly all ceramics, but sometimes I have done bronze and worked with wood and worked with a few different materials, but it's mostly all ceramics. I'm really hyperactive, and you have to do this, and you have to do that, and you have to do chemistry, and you have to do. So I think that really fits me really well because I started out as a painter, and then this when I got into the ceramics department, I was like, wow, yeah, this is it, man.
So can you talk about your daughter Rose and what stage of parenting you're in?
So my daughter Rose Durgan is 57. She probably wouldn't like me saying that. But I had her when I was 20, and I am 77.
Would you share with us a little bit about your journey to becoming a mother, and then also your journey to becoming an artist and how those two impacted each other?
Yeah, I'll back up a little bit. When I was ready to go to college, I really wanted to do art, and I came to the Art Institute, and came from a fairly wealthy family that was a big supporter of the arts and the Art Institute. And I had an interview with the president, and I brought in my little portfolio, and he said, "Honey, don't you have a boyfriend?" And so this is 1966, 65, 66. And I was like, "Yes." And he goes, "Honey, you're going to get married, and you're never going to do art."
Wow.
So that was
really
a pretty crushing blow to me. So I ended up going to, well, now we're back on the question of Rose. So I ended up at Centenary College for Young Women, right? At least it was outside of New York, but we can go there later. And that wasn't going to work for me. The art department wasn't much. And so the 60s were on and going strong. And I was just really having it out with my parents. So I ended up getting married, and then we went out to, I moved up to Lawrence, Kansas, and helped work on the screw. And I wasn't doing that much art, but I was drawing. I wasn't introduced to ceramics yet. And I was drawing and painting and stuff. And then we went out to Haight, and that was fun. We helped build those geodesic domes over there in Berkeley. And it was pretty much misbehaving, if that's what you call it. What I thought we were saving the world, And then I got pregnant when I was 20, a week short of 20, I think. Yeah, I had Rose in 69, so I was, a week short of turning 20. And I always liked to do art, and I kind of thought I could live my life as a piece of art. Anyhow, and I had Rose, and we were always involved in the arts at all times. And she's very, very smart. I mean, she already read when she was 3 and stuff. And what she has evolved into now is she went to NYU, and she took art history, and she got the great art historian, Robert Rosenblum, is that correct? And then she went right to Sotheby's and did cataloging. And then she quit and worked for Baby Jane Holzer. So she went to Baby Jane Holzer's house because she had collected so much art, and she went into business with her for a few years. So then she went to Gagosian, and she's been there 23 years now, and she's the head of research. So all she does is look at art every day, and all she does is qualify art. And she looks. She's a Warhol specialist, actually.
So she's an art professional, at the highest
Yes.
level.
Uh-huh.
So when you had her and she was young, how did being a mom with a young child then affect your art practice?
So I was just this major hippie. I'd never babysat. I'd never changed a diaper. And we were wealthy. My mother didn't know mothering at all. And I had housekeepers were my heroes, and they were my mothers. And so that's kind of how that worked. Although my grandmother collected all this art, and we had all this art at the house. And we had Thibaut's in the kitchen and Diego Rivera. And I mean, we had big time art. And
would you say your grandmother then was a role model for you?
So my grandmother started the first gallery in Kansas City in 1930s.
What was her name?
Her name was Gertrude Wolfe Lighton. In the 30s, she came into a lot of money, and she started the Friends of Art at the Nelson way back then to help the Nelson get contemporary art. And she had this gallery, and she was bringing in Gauguin and the expressionists and contemporary artists into the city and selling it. So she bought a house of prostitution down on 17th and Holly, and it was called the Bloody Bucket. And I don't even think it had electricity. And she fixed it up. It's three or four stories, and she had all these crazy parties and all this craziness, and she had a tea room, which was a huge scandal for a wealthy Jewish woman to be serving food. The chauffeur didn't want to drive down there. And I know she gave Thomas Hart Benton his first show, and she had printmaking up there, and there was a lot of wonderful printmakers. And so she had a gallery on the first floor and the tea room in the basement, and the tea room was called the Red Lantern to recognize these girls. And she had it until about the World War II, and in World War II they had gas rationing, so she moved up here to like about 47th and Main. The building's gone now. So she had art all around. And then I used to go in there and dust and look at everything and look at the antiques and dust. You know, she had all kinds of stuff.
So she really exposed you to all different kinds of art.
Yeah.
That's great. So how did art impact your parenting? Would you say that in the same way that your grandmother exposed you to art, you exposed Rose to art, or did you bring Rose to your studio? Or
I was probably just doing drawing and painting. And then by the time Rose was about 3, I had someone that was, I was married to this guy, and after a bit I split up with him, but then I lived with another woman that had a kid. So I signed up to go to the Factory of Visual Arts, and so that was in the 72 or something. In Seattle. It was an unaccredited art school, and I started taking painting classes. And I was a giant hippie, so one day I thought, I'm going to try ceramics. I'm going to go make some dishes. So I was painting and drawing and started doing ceramics, and I was just smitten. I just was like, wow, this is it. And also that funk movement was going on in New York, which I had been at Centenary College. It was 45 minutes from New York. So I'd go in all the time and see what was going on. And that funk art had such a big impression on me. And what Warhol was doing and Lichtenstein was kind of reflecting what's going on in the pop world. But what was going on in California, this funk thing, is they're kind of making fun of everything and putting it in that same category. And that was a huge influence on me. And I know Patty Warshina came over and was teaching classes, Ann Courier, and of course Louise Bourgeois and a lot of the greats. You know, I had seen them. I'd go to everything in New York all the time.
So you really started out as an artist with this kind of informal training then?
Yeah, all informal. I'd never had an art history class or anything.
Right. And then you decided to come to the Kansas City Art Institute then?
No, nothing like that. It's very complicated. So then when Rose was 3, I started taking classes at the Factory of Visual Arts for a few years.
Mm-hmm. And did you have Rose with you then? And just,
yeah, she was getting babysat or with my girlfriend, and we'd trade off. And I learned how to sew a little bit from that girl. She was knew how to sew really good. And so, yeah, we were just making stuff. And I think when I had a kid, I thought, I'm going to stop what went on at my house, which was no. And I thought, I'm just going to say yes to everything. And then I won't have all the fear and the problems that I had. Some of it, I think Rose is a little timid on some aspects, but that's the thing I really taught her, is how to have joy and how to look for joy. And she knows how to do that. She knows that the shit comes down periodically. But yeah, she knows how to do that. And she said she's learned how to be very independent. And when she was like 5, my parents were after me, trying to decide whether to take the kid away from me. They were such good parents. And I had a court order for them to leave me alone. And and from the point of view then was, I was really interested in being a back to the lander. It was a kind of a thing at the time. So I ended up moving to the Colville Indian Reservation for a couple of years in eastern Washington. And I met these guys from the Rainbow family, and they said, we have to leave this farm. We're looking for somewhere else. And I found them a place on the Colville Reservation, and it was like $50 an acre.
Wow, and so Rose came with you then, and you
all lived when she was 5. Where else would she go? I didn't have a dime. I didn't have any money. I was on welfare. And then I got a new boyfriend. He was like, you can't be on welfare. But I didn't have any money. I don't know. So I moved to a place that had no electricity, no running water. It was 80 miles to the grocery store. I could see them coming if they were coming to get me. We were like a mile up a mountain. And so I was there for about a year and a half. The school was unbelievably bad. Then they hated Indians and they hated hippies. These teachers, and I'm like, what? So the kids, I'd babysit these Indian kids. And I had all these kids' books, and they were really interested in that. They didn't know how to read, but they knew every plant, and if it was medicine, or if it was to eat, and it was really interesting.
So it seems like there's a real common thread. You talked about how you really taught Rose to find joy and also to be independent, and I feel like joy and this idea of like free thinking is really reflected in your work too. Mm-hmm. So could you talk a little bit about this common thread then in your approach to parenting Rose through joy, and then also your approach to the world, kind of starting off as a hippie and kind of rebelling against your parents, but then how that comes across in your practice then and some of your works?
I brought a little text about, I had a show called Boundless Joy. I'll read it. My visual thoughts ranged from social issues and a fear of humanity growing cold to a celebration of the wonder of life. My vision has come to be a plea for respect, dignity, and connection with other peoples. I want to visualize my hopes and fears and enlarge our circle of understanding. I need to find out what joy is, and I'm tirelessly searching for hope. So I'm doing the research. Is it color? Is it smell? Is it taste? Is it laughter? Does it have weight? Is it attached to the earth? These are some of the questions I'm asking in my art. Is it not having to do anything? Is it a walk in the woods? Is it God? I think it's fleeting. You get it, you feel it in your body. It's a lightness. It's often momentary. You've got it and then it's gone. Can we sustain it? Do we want to? Can you give it away? Joy is from the earth, full of color and lightness. It's an instantaneous flush in your cheeks, an orgasm. Can you get it to last longer? Does it take practice? So the search continues.
So your practice is really an investigation on joy.
I think I've covered a lot of areas in my work about growing up and living. So when you think about joy, and I have synesthesia, so I can taste and feel colors, As synesthesia is different for everybody, whatever they have. And clay is just, the earth is flat. It doesn't want to raise up. It doesn't want to jump in the air because that's not what it wants to do. It's heavy. So how can I make that happen in clay?
Can you think of a specific piece or a specific series of work that
really I did all those divas, and I did Tinkerbell. They were all about that kind of thinking. And after that, I had a good friend that died, and so then I'm thinking, oh, what's that? And your energy is still there. It's still there, but it's in the vapors. So it has no weight. How can you do that with clay? And what color is it? It's vaporous. So it doesn't have any color to it. And so I did those chandeliers. I did a room with 80 chandeliers over at Rockhurst.
Yeah, I love your chandelier
And
work.
I had Paul Rudy help me make music. And so I did music for it, and we did food for it, and I don't know, cucumber sandwiches.
So from the reservation, how did you and Rose get back to Kansas City, and how was your practice impacted by coming back to Kansas City?
Yeah, so after like 2 years on the res, I moved to Bellingham, Washington. And in the summers when we lived on the res, we were doing logging for the Forest Service and to make some money. And I went to University of Washington in Bellingham and kind of took all these classes. And then Tim, my friend I was living with, said, no, let's go to Idaho. That's more interesting. So we went to Idaho. But Rose was in a good Montessori school in Bellingham. It was really good, and that was great. And then we moved to Idaho, and she was in public school there, and it was all right. And I went to the University of Idaho, and was taking all these art classes. I think after a while, after a few years, I thought, I got to get Rose to a better school. Because she was really smart. And I moved back to Kansas City for about a year, and Rose went to St. Paul's.
And how old was Rose when you moved back to Kansas City?
It must have been third or fourth grade or something. And so we moved back to Idaho after just a year. And so we were there for a few years. And then we moved back to Kansas City. I kept looking for a better school. And so then I put her in PEMDAY. And that was really good for her. And she's still friends with all those kids.
So schools really brought you back to the search for
and
really
then
good
after
schools.
I was here for a while, Len's like, because he has about 4 degrees, and he's like, you need a degree. And I was like, everybody that is showing each other. All these professors are just showing each other, and I'm cut out all the time. I'm always like outside the loop of everything. So I thought, okay, I'm going back to school. I had Ken Ferguson.
So you came to the Kansas City Art
I was
Institute.
at the University of Idaho for some years, and then Frank Cronk, the head of the department, said, Linda, you just go over to the University of Western Washington. So I took my portfolio over there. And Pat Seiler, pretty well-known ceramic artist, he didn't even look at my work. He said, we already have a woman in this department.
So this is a clear example of discrimination,
so then,
sex discrimination.
When I started to go back to the Art Institute, and I had to critique on the work, and they told me my work was trite, insipid, and meaningless. And I'm like, fine, I'm out of here. I said, is that a critique? And so then I went over to the sculpture department, and Dale was really supportive, and he was really fabulous. And Jim Leedy was there, and he was like, you can do anything. You can do anything with anything and do it as big as you want, as small. He was like no holds barred. And after I graduated, he ended up saying, Linda, I don't want to go to Latvia. You go in my place. And I'm like, okay. And
did you ever feel any pushback or challenges because you're a mother to your art practice, or more just as a woman?
Never noticed. I mean, I didn't have anybody to push back on me, did I? I had a studio, in the garages or wherever, and I had a kiln in the dining room when I lived in Idaho or whatever.
So did Rose ever have her own art practice, or what?
Well, she'd come and do stuff with me, and she'd draw and do stuff.
So she'd make her own art. And then what led her to art history then? And
so she just she's like, are you kidding me? My mom lived at the Walnuts at the time. She goes, there's more people at the Walnuts than live in this town in Deary, Idaho. I want out. So she just wanted to go to New York all the time. And she just wanted to go to NYU. And I took her around to Barnard or some places. And I know at Pem Day they were like, we don't send our girls there. And I'm like, well, you might send her there if that's where she wants to go. So, yeah, so she went there and studied art history. She did not take art classes, but all she did was look at art. Yeah, that's all. And then she did not get a graduate degree. She went right to Sotheby's.
Mm-hmm.
And
so she's actually one of your greatest supporters. Can you talk about your recent collaboration with Rose?
Oh, my God. So, yeah, I had this kid in the studio, an assistant, Ryan Wilkes, and he goes, you ought to have a retrospective. And Rose is like, yeah, you ought to. So I'm like, okay. And then she said, we'll do a book. And Rose, right now we're worrying about setting up a show and what should be first and what should be second.
So where is the retrospective going to be?
It's going to be at the Nerman Museum. It'll be December 12th. It's called Love and War. Linda Lighton, a 50-year retrospective.
Wow, 50 years.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so Rose is helping to put together the book then?
It's together.
Yeah.
It's done.
So
yeah.
what was it like working with Rose on this project?
And she was the leader. She's the leader of everything. And she's just taking care of me, and she's laid out how the book should look and how everything should look and what goes with what. And yeah, it was so great.
So it seems like you're at the stage of mothering where things have really come full circle now. Can you talk about how that collaboration, your collaboration with Rose on the book about the retrospective has bring you full circle as a mother?
Yeah, I rely on her thinking, her positiveness and her understanding and her bravery and her accomplishments. I was saying, like, she really wanted to go to New York and see action and all the people and maybe model, but she was too short. And so when she was 16, I sent her and her girlfriend to New York, and they were working for my brother, I think, who had a fashion design company there. And we had her put up at a all-women's hotel. Had to be in by 10 o'clock or something, you know. So I think that maybe experiences like that really did make her independent.
Yeah. So how has it been for her working with you on this book and her expertise as an art historian, and how's that helped you, and how has that maybe kind of flipped the script a little bit on parenting?
Oh, yeah. Well, she just tells me what has to be done, and we get it done. And she tells Sydney, and she tells everybody how it's going to be, and she knows, and everybody trusts her, and she's very pleasant, and she's never grouchy, and she's very kind. And one of the interesting things about Gagosian, she said, the thing that you do at Gagosian is you do it on time, and you do it right. There will be no mistakes, period. And that is her modus operandi because she's been there 20 years. There's no time for screwing up, and not for any of the people that work for her, too. They cannot do that.
So, Linda, one of the wonderful things about your work is that you really include a lot of social commentary, political commentary, and feminist commentary in your work. As a mother, can you talk about what issues through the years have been really important and how you've reflected that in your work?
So my parents were in the fashion industry. We had a clothing store here since the 1860s. So fashion was really important in our life. And did I get the once over every morning? And you are never allowed to wear tennis shoes out. And, you know, looking good was part of the deal, you know, and we had a lot of designers and stuff coming to the house to stay. And my mother entertained very well and so forth. So anyhow, I have a way, it's kind of like saying you have synesthesia. Like I have a way of looking at people and understanding them by what they're wearing and what is a model. What does a jean jacket mean? And how does that define people? So I did all these clothes. Aprons, how does an apron define a person, you know? And how does like cut off jeans with a bandana in the back? So that is something that I understand that is a kind of social commentary. And then I started looking at all the things that people make for women. What is a deodorant bottle? I mean, we're past that now. It looks like a dick. What does a Windex bottle look like? Oh, it looks like a dick. What does a lipstick tube look like? What? It looks like a dick. So then I started making all these lipsticks and bullets, and I'm like, it's just love and war. And I made these bullet belts that have lipsticks in them and maybe bullets. And then I started making groceries, and then I made dish pans with dishes in it. What are the roles of women? Put on your apron and get washing those dishes, right? Then I made a black leather grocery stack with black leather cleaning products and studs. It's called Daddy's Hungry, and there's a peach in there. And then I started making these like still lifes on a pedestal with the good wife in all white and the first lady in red, white, and blue and bunting on the stand. And then, of course, I had to make one that was S&M.
So in your practice, you've always sort of tried to push the envelope then on these expectations that women were expected to follow. But then in your real life, then you were also pushing those boundaries then as a woman, as a wife, mother, artist.
I'm having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I started making all those, and then I was making these eggplants, and then they were splitting open, kind of like a feminist object. They were very feminist in my mind. And what does a chestnut do? And it's breaking open, and what's coming out? And stuff like that. And I think some of that will be in the show.
So birthing a little?
Yeah, birthing, yeah. And how are things living? And then after a bit, I started doing these flowers. And I'm thinking, how can all of the world come together if we're all these petals of a piece? And I wasn't trying to... A lot of them are really kind of mean-spirited and angry, and they have stamens sticking out and going at you, and they're aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Sexual, though, too?
And I think they're sexual. A lot of them are, yeah.
Definitely provocative, I think.
So that was the goal, is to make something, feminist and provocative. I wasn't trying to make nice.
So you're making this art that is... in a lot of ways, revolutionary in a real feminist sense, and then you have a daughter at home while you're making this work. So how do you think that impacted Rose and how she sees the world with her mom making this really groundbreaking feminist work that, that questions traditional gender roles?
And the idea is to always have fun with it, and I think I was having fun with most of my work, so... I don't really articulate things very well verbally. I'm trying to articulate them visually, I guess. I'm not very critical of a lot of things. Instead, I can discuss it, and I think she does that too. I don't have to say, oh, that's great, but am I getting my point across? Or something like that.
So it's really just art expression then, and giving people the freedom then to look at it and think what they will then.
And then you have to leave it up to them to think what they will, because and I really had to think about that a lot when I started working on gun violence.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and just...
So already I was doing these explosions with guns and dicks and lipsticks, and I think that I knew that 10% of our gross national product, this is 20-some more years ago, 20% of our gross national product is selling arms for oil. And I'm like, whoa. And I mean, and does not a gas pump look like a dick? Come on. It does, And then, so I was doing some work about that. And then my husband was at Linwood and Gillum at 8 on a Monday morning, and there was 6 guys across the street, from 3 guys on each side of the street shooting at each other, and he's right there at the stoplight. And 2 guys got shot dead. And I'm like, what the hell? And then I started kind of researching it and found out that we are still the 5th most dangerous city in the country. Not Chicago, which is 17 or 19. Yeah, so I'm thinking of that. So surprised. And so then we had that Hands Up, Don't Shoot. And I made some work for that. And I'd already made that monkey wrench mandala. So then I made a gun mandala. That was about the first piece I made. 44 Magnum mandala, because I'm like, Jesus, we're just bowing down to guns. What are we doing? It's like a religion. And so mostly, at first, I was just making all these gun pieces. If you looked at the titles, you could kind of see what I was doing. But if you didn't, and really people were like, yeah, guns, all right, but still, I thought it would be a way to start a conversation.
So it seemed like, Linda, early in your life and career, you kind of wanted to get the hell out of Dodge or the hell out of Kansas City. But now that you're back and you just talked about the gun violence and how you're an advocate, what does it mean to you? What does the city of Kansas City mean to you and to your practice as an artist?
I was really surprised that I'm here all these years. It's been good to me, and I think there's been a lot of great dealers. And I think everything is changing dramatically. I don't think there's too many good places to show right now. There's not. And there's very few places showing national and international artists. And I think there's a lot of new galleries, but are they doing okay? It's expensive, and who are the funders? And I don't think you can sell anything over $10,000 in this city. I think it's an incredible place to make art because there's space and it's cheap. But I don't know that it's a place that is going to make you as an artist. I think I'm pretty damn unknown from being here and not being a very good, that's me. I'm not much of a hustler. I don't like to ask for stuff, and I'm intimidated by dealers.
You're intimidated? I don't believe that.
That's the only thing. It's dealers.
Dealers. So where do you see the Kansas City art scene going then? I mean, how can it...
Oh, my God. I think it needs saving. I love the Kansas City Artists Coalition because it's just democracy. I love it that live in this neighborhood with the Art Institute, at Kemper. It's beautiful, and it's green. And we are so... My house was made by the Van Brunt brothers that laid out the city. And aren't we lucky to have how gorgeous it is around here in the inner city?
It is.
So I hope we can put it together, but I don't know how we are getting on an international stage or a national stage even. We're still pretty far away from things.
So you'd like to see it go to the next level then, that international
I think we've lost a level. Because Myra Morgan showed everybody, and Sybil Kahn, but now, with the cutback in the arts and the strength of the Republican Party, people aren't putting much emphasis on the art. They're thinking it's stupid. Come on. I mean, how do we define ourselves as a culture? We don't have culture without art. What is culture? What is democracy is a discussion in education. I'm sorry,
No, our project, the Mother Ann Project and Exhibition, had the National Endowment for the Arts grant. And then it was pulled, right?
Everybody
it was pulled in May of 2025. So what does it mean for you to be a part of this project, the Mother Ann Project and Exhibition?
Well, I think you're ambitious, and I think this was the hardest application I've ever been involved in. I think you are verbal thinker and want to have words to do that. Yeah, and it's a little harder for me. I'm a little dyslexic on the computer and this and that, but Ross helped me.
Actually, I feel lucky that I have all these visual artists that are helping to reflect all the different ways that people mother, actually, and their different practices.
And how can we get some national appreciation? I worked so hard on that 1% for the arts, and then we were going to do a bi-state cultural tax. And that was happening. And then suddenly the sports got into it and said, we want that money. And I think that they got more of that money than the arts did. We have to have some respect for the arts. Without civility, we can't have civilization, and we can't have, that's what democracy is based on, civility. It isn't on guns,
Well, that's a really great place, I think, to end, and just with a plea to support the arts and give it its due then. Thanks, Linda, for being here.
My pleasure.
This podcast was produced by Cleo Scroll Productions, with Kara Heitz as the director and Emily Milner as the audio engineer. Music is by Brooke Tooley and the Moon Travelers. The Mother and project team includes Eleanor Lim Midyet, project manager and co-curator, Courtney Wasson, co-curator, Laura Berman, senior consultant, Stephanie Leedy, Leedy-Voulkos Art Center owner and mother of the Crossroads, Erin Woodworth, Leedy-Voulkos Gallery manager, and Debbie Barrett-Jones, Leedy-Voulkos Gallery assistant. An extra thank you to the Kansas City Artists Coalition, Distribution by Air Company, and Hotel Indigo for their support. Don't forget to listen to the other episodes of the Mother and podcast, and also remember to check out the Mother and exhibition, which runs from September 5th to November 21st, 2025 at the Leedy-Voulkos Art Center in Kansas City, Missouri. More information can be found on their website at www.leedy-voulkos.com. That's www.leedy-voulkos.com. Thanks for listening.